Okay, so we kind of left off with the info peel, which is basically an electronic billboard that's outside of the Lincoln Center in New York City. So the next thing we'll talk about is interactive design. So more and more of our media has become interactive, and designers work to organize the information presented and keep the designs attractive at the same time. It's a relatively new area of design, but already we've seen a lot of standout projects with the interactive design. So the QR code is the quick response code, and it's an increasingly kind of, I would say they're somewhat outdated at this stage, but when this book came out, it had a lot of interactive potential, and they're still used today, but I think, their heyday is probably past. But they are kind of interesting because you have to interact with them. You have to actually scan the QR code with your device, such as your smartphone, and then that can link to a website or a video or another application or just more information. But you basically get to choose whether or not you interact with that. So we'll talk about a 2009 building in Japan that kind of broke new ground by building interactivity into its surface. So they actually put together this projected QR code on top of this building in Japan. And it basically, if you scan this, you can see the building's hours of operation, the sales that are taking place in the stores inside, and even some of the recent tweets by users that walk the hallways of this building. So this is kind of definitely was a new thing in 2009. And the designers of this basically created an alternative to billboards. And instead of pushing the content onto the viewer actually gets to make the choice as to whether or not they want to see what this QR code has to show them. So the consumer will actually ask, to see the content by activating the QR code with their smartphone. So this was, done in Tachikawa, Japan. The interactive facade was designed by Cosmo Inc., and then the lighting was done by a different company, Izumi Okeyasu Lighting Design. So Terada Design Architects, North Building, 2009. I believe that these guys are just the owners of the actual building, but these guys, Cosmo Inc., did the actual design of the QR code and then the lighting. So there's a couple different people working together or firms working together to make that happen. So websites are another major source of information that are interactive in nature and digital in nature. And a well-designed site can make gathering information pretty pleasurable. And the website about the Sonic Sea really presented information about the movie and the recently recognized problem of the noise pollution that is in the ocean, which actually is very disruptive to whales in particular. They have very sensitive ears, and so any of that sonic activity going on by like the military or the Navy is very disruptive to their natural patterns. And so this website really helps to bring that to the forefront and make it something that people are aware of at least. So it basically had slow moving graphics and an overall blue color scheme that made it pretty peaceful. A lot of voiceovers would play over the background, sound of waves, scrolling down. You get to a learning section of the site, and it brings out these words and text along with a lot of clickable links for more information about how to take action. And so all of this information unfolds really clearly without overloading the viewer in kind of a creative graphical way. And I don't think that the current site that's up is still around in the way that it used to be. So I think we'll just move on. You can check it out, but I think the new site is probably a little different because it's been a while since that was up, because that was done by Imaginary Forces, website for the Sonic Sea by Henry Chang. He was the designer, but it was done in 2015, which in website years is like a million years ago. So we also have a smartphone app called Inks, and this was done in 2016, and it's an interactive game based on pinball, but with a digital and artistic component kind of built in. So basically viewers shoot virtual pinballs and hit colored edge areas to release kind of a flowing digital paint that can be controlled. And the colors flow and blend according to the speed of the ball and the degree of tilt that the user applies to the phone or device that they're using when they play the game. And the ball kind of takes on the color that it most recently struck, and then it leaves a curving trail of paint behind it. And it's kind of a nice design element that they added into the app. And the app actually offers many tables with differing ball paths and colors, and you can actually save your design and print them or share your results from the game. And so you can actually kind of experiment with non-representational painting, and you can actually amass a gallery of your own creations from this, which is sort of a neat idea. So here are some kind of screenshots of different things that you can do with this game, and it actually is quite artsy, the way that it's set up and the way that it's designed, and it's just a lot of computer programming combined with design and color, and kind of an interesting application. I'm not sure if it's still around for download. Maybe it is, and maybe it's even more advanced and even cooler now. Who knows? It might be something to check out. I think I'll skip that. So industrial product design is the next section that we'll kind of talk about. So industrial product design has to kind of do with the design products of every day. So the people that design these products are called industrial designers, and they work to make products more beautiful, useful, and sustainable. And we'll be examining some of these objects that have made history by integrating, first and foremost, a lot of it has to do with utilitarianism or utility. So how useful is it? How easy is it to use? How user-friendly is it to use? Technology obviously is a large part of that. And then just the cutting edge design that goes into that. Like even my Contigo coffee mug, it's kind of coming apart, but I do like the way that it's designed, and that is part of product design, the person that designed this. So you push the button to release the coffee, you can lock it, unlock it. It's slim, so it fits in your car easily, and it's actually flared at the top instead of the bottom, or actually at the bottom rather than being too flared at the top, so that it's not top heavy like some of them. So I like the way that that's been designed, and the industrial designer, or the person the industrial designer that designed that coffee mug, I feel like did a good job. But so, we now have tablets and other handheld media devices like smartphones, but their origins kind of came about to some degree in the transistor radio that was developed by the Sony Corporation in 1957, and it was called the TR-610, and it basically fit in your hand, and it had a small speaker and a built-in antenna on it, and buyers could also select the exterior color, much like a phone, so you could choose what color you wanted, and then a large loop at the back was extended for setting the device on a table. So during the first 2 years of its shelf life that it came out for the public, it actually sold more than 2 million units, which is huge. So here we go. This is the first transistor radio. I think it was just AM. I don't think it had FM capabilities, but it had a volume knob. Pretty basic idea, but at the time when this came out, this was pretty cool. And the fact that you can choose your own color was sort of neat too. So very utilitarian, very useful for your everyday average person, where radio played a huge part back in the 1950s. This was before, TVs were very popular. This was before all of that stuff was, the newer technologies just weren't around. So the TR-610 was huge, really, when it came out. So we're going to talk about Sony Corporation a little bit more. They also came out with, let's see, actually, let me talk about the Sony a little bit more. So Sony is actually a custom designed word, and it's not tied to any nationality. It doesn't actually mean anything, but it's easy to read and say in a lot of different languages, and that's why they came up with the word Sony. So that's an interesting piece of the puzzle too, is that actual branding that they came up with. They actually invented that word because it was easy to say and read in a lot of different languages. So that's kind of interesting. So in the 1970s, Sony actually united the miniature headphones with the new cassette technology that had came out. And they actually created the Walkman, which was like super revolutionary for its time. They used this for playing cassette tapes. I don't know if you guys even know what cassette tapes are these days, but this was released in 1979. It was a portable cassette player that changed listening habits by allowing people to listen to their music of choice on the move. So they could go running with this. This was totally revolutionary at the time, because before this, I believe they were probably using 8-tracks and vinyl. So if you wanted to listen to a record, you had to be sitting down in a room, or 8-tracks might be used in cars to some degree. But when the cassette came out, it really opened up a lot of doors, and especially with the Walkman, designed by Sony in 1979. And it was $150 at the time, which if we translate that to today's money, that's around $550, around there. So when compact disc recordings became feasible in the 80s, Sony developed another portable player. And then the advent of computer-based digital audio at the beginning of the 21st century led to the proliferation of MP3 players, such as iPods. And eventually now we just use our phones. And I don't even think we play MP3s anymore. It might be a different file type. But so the advent of the lithium-ion battery in the new millennium broadened the uses of electricity for powering many kinds of devices, not just handheld devices. And among them is a motorcycle that the BMW company developed called the Concept E-scooter. And it has an electric motor, and it really enabled new design solutions for this two-wheeled transport. So it has no gas tank or pipeline. So a lot of the structural elements in the design seem to kind of lean forward, which suggests speed. And indeed, this model accelerates a lot more quickly than a gasoline-powered motorcycle of similar size. And it is really very quiet, and it produces zero emissions, so that's great. And this is one of many examples of products that designers are creating to encourage green thinking. So this was developed in 2011. It was in Germany, and it's the E-Concept scooter. So we're going to talk about the battery chair. A chair is kind of a mundane device for sitting, but Andrew Jones rethought its parameters when he came up with this particular chair design, the battery chair. The overall design suggests a flower, and the blue color refers to the blossoms of a specific silica plant, which flourishes locally in the northeastern United States. And it's lightweight. It has a stackable design, which is very utilitarian. And it kind of has a cartoony petal flower shape that suggests, relaxation. And this was done in 2014, and it was designed for the National Park Service to install in the grassy Battery Park in the southern tip of Manhattan, which they have a lot of outdoor markets, concerts, movie screenings in this park. So that's what this was designed. This particular chair was designed for. And the Park Service actually commissioned the chair from Jones after a competition for a new chair design that drew 679 entries from around the world. So they actually had a competition, the Park Service did. They whittled it down to Jones's design, the battery chair. And the entries were all checked for comfort, for everything that they might need. And they found that the battery chair really encouraged a relaxed posture, and it was comfortable. It was good for what they were needing. So he won the contest, and they ended up commissioning a lot of chairs from him. So we've seen graphic design, a lot of other related design principles that are really frequent in our daily lives. And it's a creative process that employs art and technology to produce visual compositions and objects that can attract, inform, persuade, delight, or assist us. So we're probably going to have some sort of project coming up soon, having to do with probably a graphic design using canva.com is what I'm thinking. Maybe COVID related in some way, maybe making a poster, starting to have the sun come in here. But anyway, hope you just enjoyed the chapter, and we'll talk to you next week.